And we're live. Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. I'm Catherine Heeg of Customized Management Solutions, and I take the mystery and mayhem out of social marketing for travel and tourism pros. I've been in the industry my entire career, and it's been a long time. And since 2009, I've been speaking and working in social marketing exclusively in the tourism and hospitality industry. And today, for going live, I'm so excited to have Amber Zakum with us today. She is a podcasting expert. Now, I had the opportunity to meet Amber at a conference that I spoke at, and she and I just hit it off. And so now we've decided to do some things together. And just to fill you in a little bit on what Amber is all about, I'm going to read you a little piece of what Amber is doing these days. She's been in the travel and tourism industry for 7 years, and she's focusing on social marketing and marketing in general in the agency, consortium, and supplier levels. And she recently left the MAST network where she had been for 5 years working as a social media and PR. And now she's out on her own, building her own business. So I'm happy to help Amber. And she says that she works with clients both inside and outside the travel industry to create customized social media and marketing plans. She's got a MBA in marketing and continues to grow her business and is an expert in podcasting. So take it away, Amber. Let's hear what we are going to talk about with podcasting today.
Well, thank you so much, Catherine. That was a lovely little introduction, and it's always great working with you. Today, like Catherine said, I'm going to talk about kind of my tips and tricks for creating a podcast. So if you're interested in checking out the podcast that I work on, I am currently working on 3 of them. The first is called Masters of Travel, and that is MAST Travel Network's podcast. I do a lot of the back end stuff with that, and I have worked in some capacity in the recording of it, as well as creating a vlog out of the podcast. And then I also do work with, it's actually a high school in Wisconsin. They have a program called Communities where they focus on, it's kind of a class where the students learn about different things in the community as well as like social issues. So they have a podcast called Convos with Communities, where I am exclusively just editing and uploading for them. So they do the recording, send it to me, and I do all of the editing, add in, the fun intro sound, and then we put it out into the podcast sphere. And then my own personal podcast, which me and my husband do together, it's called Relationship Goals ? And I do all of it for that. So I'm writing the episodes, I am editing, I'm adding in the music, I'm uploading, I'm marketing. So that is, I've kind of had I've kind of dipped my toe in all of the types of work you can do on podcasts through those 3. So if you want to check any of those out, they are available on Spotify and Apple Podcast. You can also listen to podcasts on patreon.com. There's iHeartRadio. There's truly dozens of places to listen to podcasts, but I know that Spotify and Apple Podcasts tend to really be the most popular, and podcasts are free there. I know Amazon also recently launched Amazon Music where you can listen to podcasts, but I do believe you have to have like an Amazon Prime membership. So those are the places. You can check those out, as well as really almost every other podcast that exists. And from there, I guess I kind of want to talk about reasons why it's great to start a podcast. So I've been working on my own personally, as well as business ones for a while now. And I think that podcasts in general are really just growing in popularity. No matter what your interests are, there are options out there. So a great thing is that listeners can really tune in anywhere. You can, listen while you're traveling. You can put it on in the car on your way to work. You can turn it on when you're cleaning the house. It's just a really great, it's a great reason to kind of make your own podcast because of the endless options for people to listen. It's not like Other forms of marketing, especially, if you think about blogs where people have to actively sit down and read it, this is something that you can kind of do more passively, which is, a great option, especially for people are busy no matter what they do. So it's great for that reason. It's also really excellent, especially we've seen in the last year, to get out really critical information and to provide the knowledge that you guys have, especially in the travel industry. So you guys are the experts on all things travel. Your travelers look to you for comfort, for information, and kind of just to stay up to date on the latest regulations. So being able to provide them that information via a recorded podcast is a really great way to get out that information. And
Plus,
then,
what I like about it, Amber, is that you don't have to get all glammed up. It's not like doing video where you get all glammed up.
exactly, you
Do
can record
you-
it in your sweats.
Right, right. And in your house, you don't need any special backdrop or any special lighting. So I think that's really where podcasting can shine for a lot of people who might be afraid to get out in front of the camera.
Definitely. And it's a very low cost option. You can do it for free. There are all of the options I'm going to talk about today have free versions. And if you have, obviously, any money you put into it, you're going to enhance sound quality, you're going to enhance your options, but there are ways to do it for free, and there are ways to do it well for free. So there, are a plethora of options no matter what your marketing budget is, which is really great. So obviously, once you decide you want to start a podcast, you need to know where to begin. And that's why my tools, I have 5 of them. These are basically the vital tools that you're going to need to start your podcast. And like I said, they range from basically free to a few of these have about under $15 a month charges if you would like to upgrade to, more options. The first is Zoom. So I know after surviving 2020, we're all very, very familiar with Zoom. And Zoom is a great way to record podcasts because when you're recording on Zoom, you are given both an audio and visual recording once your episode is over. So you can use the video, even though obviously you're not uploading video to podcasts, you can use the video to market, which I know Catherine will get into as soon as I'm done. But I love that, you would have to get a little more glammed up, I guess, if you're using but it is a really great option if you're looking to market your podcast to have the video and not just the audio. And then once you do have your audio, the way that Zoom gives you audio is in an M4A file, and most podcast editing software requires an MP3. So there's a great website I use called Cloud Convert, and all of this information is in the guide that Catherine sent out. So you'll be able to see all this. You don't have to write it all down. But Cloud Convert just allows you to take that M4A file and convert it into an MP3 file. Super easy, but definitely something if you got that M4A file after recording on Zoom and were like, oh no, I can't use this kind of file. What do I do? That's a really easy way to kind of switch that over. And then I love to use Audacity. That is an editor. And I know Catherine has used Audacity in the past, and many of you may have heard of it because it is a very popular editing tool. Sorry, go ahead, Catherine.
And it's just super easy to use because I know a lot of people are looking for easy ways to get into this. So
it's very user-friendly. And when I started podcasting, I had never used an audio editor before, and I have learned how to use it just by playing around with it. It's all, kind of drag and delete or, drag and drop. So if you're willing to kind of play around with it, I think you're going to get the hang of it very quickly. And the great thing about Audacity is that they also do allow you to record audio. So if you want to skip the first 2 tools that I talked about completely and you just want to record your audio right on Audacity, you can do that. You're not going to get, video that you can use to promote, but you will be able to, trim this list down to 3 options then. Once you have your podcast edited, you are going to need to have a podcast hosting site. So there are many out there. The one I use is called Buzzsprout, and it's there's a free option. You have I can't remember how many minutes of audio you can record, but it's quite a bit every month for free. And if you'd like to upgrade that, I believe it's like $11 or $12 a month to upgrade for more minutes of podcast hosting per month. And there, what's really nice is once you have your Buzzsprout account set up, you will also enroll in the different podcast sites that you want your podcast to be sent to. So like I mentioned before, Spotify, Apple Podcast, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, you can essentially just sign up and it's all for free to host your podcast on these various podcast sites. And then once you're set up in Buzzsprout and you upload your episodes, they automatically get published to all of those podcast sites. So it's not something you have to go through every time, sending it to all of these places. It's a nice little hub to keep everything. And Buzzsprout actually also provides you a landing page for your podcast. So you can also share that landing page with someone that maybe isn't as familiar with podcasting. And they don't have to download Spotify or Apple Podcasts. They can just go to your Buzzsprout website and have access to all of your episodes there.
Right. So Amber, there's a question because you mentioned Zoom earlier, and Debbie had a great question, and both of us know the answer to this one. But Debbie asked, "Can we use the free version of Zoom?" She says, "I know there's a time limit, but are there other limitations?"
Yes. So you definitely can use the free version. The only other limitation that I've ever run into when it comes to podcasting is that you have to record, the recording will go to your desktop as opposed to the cloud. So Zoom isn't going to be saving your recordings for you. So you have to be pretty diligent about making sure, you're using a reliable computer that you have space on and that you are, then maybe housing the recordings once they're uploaded somewhere else, because I know our computers don't generally, allow for unlimited amount of space. So the 40 minutes to me never seemed to be a major problem, just because podcasts are meant to kind of be a little bit shorter. I like to keep mine around 30 minutes. And if I do one that's longer, I just make it a 2-parter and record it as 2 parts. So,
oh, that's a great idea. Plus on Zoom, just remember, the only thing that people sometimes forget is to push that record button on Zoom.
Very true.
Yeah, because a lot of times we'll just start talking. I'll do a coaching session on Zoom and we'll just be going to town and forget to push the record button. So make sure you push record. And then when you finish your recording, of course, you'll click end, and then it automatically downloads it for you. You don't have to do anything with it.
Exactly. And all the files download together in a nice little zip file that will pop up on your computer.
Yeah, and it's handy, it's easy to find, and then you just do whatever you need to after that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I only have one more tool to talk about today, and that's for you, anyone out there that has already done maybe like a vlog, or you have a YouTube channel and you want to turn the videos you've already made into podcasts. So super easy. There is a website in the guide. It's a YouTube to MP3 converter. And so if you do vlogs where, you have an intro music, you do a little introduction, and then you talk about whatever your topic is, you can take that and you already have podcasts ready to go. So that's a really great way to do it if you've already kind of ventured into the video sphere and now you're kind of looking to do podcasts. So that's a great one for anyone that, has a little bit of experience in vlogging, if you will.
Then you're saying that you could take a video that you've created and strip out the audio then. Is that what you're saying?
Absolutely.
Yes. Okay, yeah. Great.
And the last thing I wanted to talk about today is just simply how, my process of creating an episode. So kind of the steps that I go through. And I always think of it as something that's very similar to writing a blog. So you want to think about your topic. You're not going to talk on, too broad of a topic. It's going to be something that's a little more niche. And once you have that topic thought out, I set it up in a 3-part system where I do an introduction, a body, and a conclusion. So with my introduction, I always do a welcome. So you'll hear, welcome to Masters of Travel. My name is Amber Zackham, and today we have with us Catherine Heeg of Customized Management Solutions. And so you're kind of welcoming everyone in. They know the name of the podcast and what either, who's on with you, or you might introduce the topic that you'll be talking about today. And then I also like to use my introduction to kind of go through any business. So if if something's coming up, if you said something in the last podcast that you need to correct, that's like a great way to kind of bring up any unfinished business from the last time. And then I work into my body of the podcast. So however many topics you're talking about, whatever your key, kind of thinking about how you would write paragraphs, whatever your key paragraphs that you want to talk about are, I don't write anything out unless it's a direct quote or if it's some sort of like numbers that I want to make sure that I'm getting correct. Because I think when it comes to podcasts, you want to be as conversational as possible. And it's really only, you're only able to do that if you are very comfortable. So it's something that you might want to practice if, having that conversation is a little bit new or foreign to you. And then I use the conclusion to thank everyone for being on with me. I remind them where they can find me on my social handles. I tell them an upcoming topic if we have something. And then you can always do a very a fun, unique sign off. So I know if you're doing a travel one, you might say, thank you for joining me on my podcast. You can follow me at Amber's Travel. And we're going to be talking about Hawaii in the next podcast. And then you might sign off with something like, let me show you the world, or, anything that's fun and kind of catchy and something that will make people remember your podcast. So short and sweet, but a little bit memorable.
So that ending there, that could be a person's tagline, couldn't it?
Absolutely.
Okay.
I know that podcasts that end up becoming quite popular then tend to use those taglines on various forms of marketing and even like mugs and whatever it is, whatever you want. But it usually becomes kind of synonymous with the podcast if it's something catchy.
But that's cool because you could tie that in with the rest of your social marketing, with your website. You could have that tagline appear everywhere online. I mean, even in the bios of your social sites.
Absolutely. And I know a lot of travel agencies have a tagline already. So that might be something where you actually put that into use and already use the tagline you've had for years and make that your sign off on your podcast.
Great idea. Great idea. So there's a couple of questions for you. And one of my favorite questions is from Natasha Grant. She says, which microphone do you recommend?
Oh, that's a great question.
Yeah.
I'm actually using my podcast microphone right now, and I'm going to lift it up and show you guys. It looks like, there we go.
There we go.
This, it's on a little tripod. So it's nice for obviously like tabletop use. And it's called a toner. And I got it on Amazon for I think it's around $40.
Very cool. Because when I podcast, and even sometimes when I shoot video, I use a Blue Snowball microphone. And it's cool if you're going to be interviewing somebody on your podcast, because there's a little button on the back and you can switch it so that it not only picks up your voice, but the voice of your guest as well. So it's round, it picks up things from both sides. And then I also use this microphone. It's a lavalier and it's a Samson, and what's nice about it, it just plugs into my laptop, and then it's got the lapel mic that you can use with it as well. I've also, for podcasting, I've used headphone microphones, the big headset sort of thing. And that worked really well for me. All of these things I've gotten off of Amazon. So
great place to do it. I know a lot of people have had success even with their AirPods. I know that there is good audio with that. I would suggest trying it out first, recording yourself and hearing what the audio sounds like. But they do tend to have pretty good audio.
Oh, that's good to know. And a lot of people have AirPods now. So
exactly.
Yeah. And there was another question, as long as we're talking about tools here. Kyle asked, and this kind of goes in with Natasha's other question, are there some resources to look for podcast jingle music or professional intros and outros?
Yeah, so there are people that actually will make them, and I actually have a good contact for someone who makes them. I can get it over to Catherine. I don't know if you I'll actually share it in the comments on this
Yeah.
on our Facebook Live on the Facebook page afterwards. I want to make sure I get his handle right. Otherwise, you can also search the internet for unlicensed music, and there are tons and tons of catalogs of free music, no matter, what the vibe of your podcast is.
And would you suggest using the same intro and outro every time, or would you vary it sort of based on your topic?
Yeah, I would definitely say use the same intro music. Definitely kind of helps. It's almost like branding for audio.
Okay, good advice. And so that consistency pays off then.
Absolutely.
Yeah, good to know. And Kyle also asked which software is best to record a PowerPoint presentation with audio. Kyle, I think I'm going to get back to you on that on a side comment, just because that's a whole nother conversation. And Kyle, maybe that makes for another podcast too, or another Facebook Live. We can dive into that question. So great questions. I'm so excited to see the questions.
Absolutely. And thank you guys so much for those questions. That was it for, my tech and tools, but I'm going to pass it over to Catherine now to talk about marketing a podcast.
Okay, because there's some really cool marketing tips that we can put out there. Once you do all this work of creating your podcast, getting it out and getting some either eyeballs or listeners in to listen to it is so vital. So I've put together kind of a list, and it's in that guide that you can download as well. So I've put together kind of a list of a roadmap that you can use to market your podcast once you get it going. So, of course, not only would you put it on those podcast sites that Amber mentioned, but you could also create a Facebook post, create a Pinterest post, create an Instagram post, all the social posts that would direct people to the place where that podcast is stored. You could also do something along the lines of creating that video with it, and then set up some social ads with a video introducing the podcast. Because right now I'm finding that social ads that have a video are getting far more reach and engagement than just a still image or a link to something. So if you're able to create a little video, maybe that intro part of your podcast then becomes a snipped video that you can use as part of a social ad. So you could create that, and then of course you're going to want to embed it into a blog post. And Amber, just correct me if I'm wrong, but there is an embed code, right?
Yes, there are embed codes on all of the podcast hosting sites. So on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, even on your Buzzsprout website.
Good, because then you can just grab that embed code. It's just a little snippet of code, and pop that into your blog post, and then the podcast will appear in the blog. I know it's kind of a long run, circle route to get there, but it will help just get more eyeballs and listeners for your podcast. And then there's a couple of really simple things that a lot of people miss out on. And one is including the link to your podcast in any e-blast that you send out. And also, when you create your regular email on whatever email provider you use, you can always update your email signature line and make sure that you include a link to your podcast in there and invite people to go see it. So you might say something like, for all the latest and greatest travel tips, visit my podcast, and then hyperlink that to your podcast channel. So all of these little tips will get more viewers for your podcast. But Debbie had a great question. It seems, she says, like the market is so saturated with podcasts. Is there really space and need for more?
Well, I think that's a really great question, because that's very true. I think that it comes down to, do you have a unique view on what you want to be talking about? So just like I actually saw this great, I think it was just a meme the other day about how if you go in the bread aisle, there's 1,000 different options of bread. yet somehow they all still are selling. So I think, when I go to the bread aisle, I have a specific bread I'm looking for. And it's just because it's what I prefer. So if you are going to enter that quote unquote bread aisle, I think you need to have something that's different than what other people are doing. And, travel has so many different facets to it that there's unlimited room for you to kind of have a unique spin on your own podcast.
I agree. It's like starting your own business. There's lots of travel agencies out there, but what's your unique message and
Exactly.
what value can you bring? And you can express that and set yourself apart in the podcast world.
Yep, exactly.
Great. And I know we're kind of at the end of our time limit here, but Amber, did you have any final comments or anything else that we missed that you want to chat about?
I just want to say that with podcasting, if it's something that you've been thinking about, start, playing around with it. What I always like to sign off when I do webinars or Facebook Lives is to just say, take one thing that we've talked about today and learn it really well, and then go on to the next thing. Don't try to do all 5 of my tools or all of the steps that Catherine talked about today for promoting it. If you pick one thing, learn it, and then you can move on to the next, you're going to realize how good you can get at it really quickly.
That's it. And like anything, practice pays off. There is one final question. Actually, 2 people have asked this question. How often do you suggest people podcast?
Another really great question. It seems to be the norm for podcast at about once a week, but I think keep in mind, this is very much like marketing in general. If you're putting out a quality product, that's more important than your timetable. So if you can only do 2 really good podcasts a month, then that's how many you do. If you have enough material to do 2 a week, great. So I think you kind of have to know what amount of time you have and if you're putting out the right material.
Good advice, because I'm more about quality than quantity. So, and I think that's going to set you apart in the podcast world as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So great. Thank you so much, Amber, for being here with us today, and great information. If anyone wants to reach out to Amber, just pop a question into the comment section and Amber will reply. And from me, thank you so much for tuning in today. I'm hoping to do this more often on my page and have guests as intriguing as Amber.
Well, thank you, Catherine.
Thank you, and we'll see you all next time.
Bye-bye.